Hello everyone. This is Elena Bartash, your real estate investor. Today, my podcast is kind of different. It's not just podcast about private money in real estate. Today, my main topic is co-living, and today I'm extremely lucky because my guest is very cool guy, very known person in co-living on co-living market, Sam Wegert. Meet Sam. Hi, Sam.
What's up? What's up, Elena? Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be on and talk about one of my favorite subjects in the whole world, co-living. Let's go.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. Mine as well. I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for being today with me. How is your day, Sam?
My day is very busy. This is my last appointment of the day, so I am excited to go take a nap after this podcast. But I'm here and I'm ready to go. So let's rock and roll.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for being today with me. I believe many people know who are you, but for those who never heard, who is Sam Wegert, could you please tell us who are you?
Yeah, there's so many ways I could take that question. I'll give you the very short version. I'm just a simple guy who had a really unique childhood. You know, I was in a bigger family than most, at least for the United States. There were 8 siblings in my family and 2 parents, and we lived in a pretty small house. Growing up, we lived in a 1,900 square foot house. We lived on a septic system, and so I was kind of doing this thing, co-living, even before people really knew what co-living even was. It was kind of like shared housing, right? And
Yep.
I'm actually going to change my, let's see, I'm going to change my microphone here just to make sure that I have, okay, this should be better.
Please, yeah.
So I was doing co-living before I even knew it. And then growing up, there wasn't a lot of people around me with a lot of money. And so for me, I always wanted to find a shortcut to wealth. I wanted to find a shortcut to financial freedom. Not a get-rich-quick scheme, but just a shortcut, a way that I could get there faster. And so I built a business. My mom put me in martial arts, and then I decided to build a martial arts company, and I built a chain of martial arts schools across Virginia and North Carolina and South Carolina. Mm-hmm. But all through these times, I wanted to do something in real estate because I know that real estate makes you wealthy in more than one way. There's tax benefits and there's appreciation and there's, you get to pay down these loans and you get to use other people's money, all the things that you talk about right on this show. And so for me, one day I had this home and I was renting it out to a few of my friends. And my buddy comes by and he says, "Sam, how much are you renting that house for?" And I said, "Well, if you count me as a renter, I'm renting it for like $2,850. And he just, like, his mouth just dropped open. He goes, "Sam, that house would normally only rent for $1,300. And there was only 4 of us in this home." And so he said, "You're more than doubling the rent with 4." Now, keep in mind, I'm the guy that's looking for a shortcut to wealth. So he was like surprised, which made me surprised. And then I went on this crazy journey. And I won't tell the long version of the story now, but I went on this crazy journey of like, well, if it works with 4 people, could it work with 5? Could it work with 6? What about 7? What about 8? What about 9? And I know your listeners might think this is crazy, but we now have homes that 10 people share that home or 11 people share that home. And so now we get to provide this type of workforce and affordable housing. And it actually does help society. It does provide the cheapest type of living in any city, in any market, is co-living. And we get to do it in a way that's clean and quiet and safe. And at the same time, if we're investors, and I'm a big investor, I know your audience are big investors, I am getting 2, 3, sometimes even 4 times the amount of rent that I would normally be able to get. So I truly believe it's a win-win. It's a win for people living in the homes, and it's a win for people investing in these co-living homes. So that is, and so now all I do is I build co-living homes from the ground up. I teach hundreds and hundreds of people how to do co-living and how to be profitable with it. And then we manage a bunch of co-living. We manage like 500 doors here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we have about 2,500 doors around the United States.
Oh, beautiful. How do you select your markets, Sam?
Yeah, it's a good question. One of the biggest people ask me this all the time. People will ask me, "Sam, what's the best market for co-living?" And I always ask them a question back. I say, "Where can you manage co-living?" And they're like, "Oh, I can manage it here." Because here's the thing. Here's the good part about co-living is it makes a lot of money and it solves affordable housing. Here's the bad
Mhm.
part about co-living. Let's just get this out of the way from the beginning of this podcast. The bad part is it's difficult to manage. I don't care what anybody tells you.
Mm.
I've done it for a decade and a half. It is difficult to manage. Everybody's trying to figure out how to manage. So I don't care if, like, you bring me a city and you say, Sam, this is the best city to manage it. If you can't manage it there, you can't invest there. And so we pick our markets, to answer your question directly. We pick our markets based on where we have a team and connections and where we feel like we can build a team. And so management, the team, the infrastructure to manage the property becomes the number one thing that you need to look at. Now, of course, there's other things. That's one. Can I manage it there? Number two is it going to make money there? Right? I can buy a home in San Diego. San Diego right now is one of the most expensive cities in the United States. I can buy a home and I can cash flow using co-living in San Diego. I have some students doing it. But you're not going to get the same cash flow as if you buy in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I can make $1,000, $2,000. Some of my homes can make $3,000 a month in cash flow. That's very different than San Diego, California, right? Where taxes are much higher and homes are 5 times as much as they are in Charlotte. So I'm going to look for an area where, when I put all the numbers in my calculator, it gives me the cash flow that gets me financially free. So that's number 2. Can I manage it? Can I make money with it? The third thing you have to think about when you pick a market is you have to pick, is that city friendly to co-living? Now, for me and my students, I've created a legal strategy called membership agreements, where I don't lease it to 8 different individuals. If there's 8 people, I lease it to one other. I lease my home to one other company, and that company is like a country club or a fraternity club, and it has hundreds and hundreds of members, right? And so that's the membership strategy. It's a way to only have one lease on the property and to kind of get around some of these rules and regulations. But I have a legal strategy, and then we have to have a practical strategy. But even if you have a good legal strategy, you don't want to go to Sarasota, Florida, because in Sarasota, Florida, they've come out and said, we hate co-living. We will fight it. We will take you to court. You don't want to, you might as well just go to a different city that's more friendly. So you want to ask, where's friendly to co-living? So where can I manage it? Where can it make money? And then, is it friendly to co-living? I think those are kind of your 3 top things you need to be thinking about before you pick a market.
Great. Thank you so much for great such answers. And actually, I love how we started from the end, because everyone discussing how the best houses for co-living, the best strategies. Let's talk about how to manage co-living, because this is a great topic. Yep. Okay. Fred, let's pretend someone who never done co-living asking you what people should know, how we should prepare ourselves to start managing co-living. If, for example, we never done it, we don't have property or asset manager in our team. Let's say someone does it solo. First house, first deal. What would you suggest to these people?
In terms of how to manage it? If it's their only deal, is that what you're asking? Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you really have only a couple of options, which makes it difficult, because here's the thing. If you go buy a multifamily building, even though your cash flow on a multifamily building is probably going to be very low, the good part about multifamily is there's probably 150 companies that will manage that building. So if one manager sucks, I just go find another one. If that guy sucks, I go find another. There's so many options. If you go into my city in co-living and you want to find a good co-living manager, there's probably 2, maybe 3. So you don't have a lot of management options. So your options are pretty simple. Your options are, you self-manage it. Now that's good if you like to learn. If you're okay going to court to have to evict someone, if you have to, because that happens. I hope it doesn't happen to you. It may never happen to you, but it could happen. So you have to be willing to do that. If you are willing to deal with your members, if you're willing to go and call someone in the middle of the night with a toilet that's overflowing or a pipe that's leaking in your house, like, all these are real things that happen. And if you're willing to do that, then you can self-manage. Maybe you have a little extra time. Now, I self-managed up to about 25 members. And after that, and I had a full-time job. After that, I said, forget this. Forget this. I just want to go, and I want someone else to manage. So I did the second option. The second option people have is you can hire someone to do it. Now, the problem with hiring someone, you can hire a virtual assistant online and they can handle all your leads. You can hire someone in your house. My first staff member was someone that lived in my house. And I said, I'll give you free rent and I'll pay you, run the whole thing. And she did. She was awesome. She worked great for like 3 years. So you can hire a friend, but the only problem is then you need to teach them. So a lot of people that join my program, they bring in someone else to teach them. They'll be like, hey, they'll join my coaching program, but it's not even for them. It's for their manager. And then they put their manager through my program and they teach our manager how to teach, but you have to teach them. You're gonna have to coach them unless they know it, but they probably won't know it because not a lot of people know it. This is a new asset class. So I think that that's the second option is you bring someone and you hire someone, you build your own team. And the third option is to go find an actual manager that already has rooms and is doing it. Again, the problem is there's not that many of them. And the ones that are there don't advertise. So they're hard to find because almost every property manager that I know in co-living is at their max. They're like, there's a few that are trying to grow, but most of them are like, I have 100 rooms, I have 200 rooms, and I'm good. Because it's hard.
More than enough.
My company's this way. We're at 500 rooms. I only manage for my students, but every week I get 3 to 5 people that call us to say, would you please manage my co-living property? And we say, absolutely not. I only manage for my students that are in my program because it's that difficult. It's that nuanced. So if someone's listening to this, by the way, a huge opportunity is to open up co-living property management company. It's a big opportunity. So you kind of have to find those companies through relationships. So I think your 3 options are you self-manage if you're willing to and you have time and you're willing to do that. 2, you find someone, you hire them and you get them some training. And then I think the third option is if you just go ahead and you find that co-living management company, but you're going to have to ask around. You're going to have to be in some Facebook groups because they're not advertising. So you have to really kind of dig to get those companies.
Yeah. It's actually great advice because I know a couple markets where co-living is something pretty new. For example, Midwest, it's an expensive market. It's not common thing to rent rooms for people, but we all know there's such a problem right now in whole country for less inventory, people losing their jobs. So the economy is not in the best stage, and co-living will come in all markets. I strongly believe in it. So this is my personal plan, to be honest, to start co-living property management on Midwest this year. So I'm happy you agree with me. This is a great opportunity.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Perfect. Yeah. Sam, and do you remember when you started your property management for co-living, what you were struggling with most? What experience did you get from your first clients, from first deals as a property manager?
Well, I started a property management company, Elena, mainly for my own properties. I didn't ever really want to manage other people's properties. But in the coaching program, I have a program we call it the white glove service. And it's where we do like a done for you. So, we have students all around the world and my team goes, finds them properties, negotiates them properties, rehabs those properties, and then we manage the property. So I started letting people use my management company because I was selling this program that was done for you. And we still have that program, and it's a very popular program because it's this is a great cash flowing asset, but it's difficult to do. And so I say that to say, that was the only reason I really started letting other people use the management company. But I think the lessons that we've learned are, one, it's hard. But that's like anything in life, right? Anything in life. If it was really easy, well, everybody would be doing co-living, but it's difficult. And that's why it's so lucrative. That's why it makes so much money, because it's a little bit difficult. And I think if your listeners are listening to this, you should get excited when I say it's difficult, because if it's difficult, it means it's going to keep people that are lazy out. Not just everybody can come in and make money. So I think it's for me, I think about it as a good thing, right? So I would say that that's a piece of the puzzle. So I'd say that. I would say also one of the lessons I've learned through managing properties is if you are in a hurry to fill your property, and you just let anybody stay in your property, that will cost you tens and tens of thousands of dollars. I see a lot of people say, oh, this person wants the room. They said they can pay, and they just put them in without doing the proper vetting, without doing the background check, without meeting them in person, without doing the proper, using the proper channels. And then what happens is they have a bad person in there and everybody else hates that person. So then other people move out because they're causing contention. So one of the nuances of co-living is that when you have so many people sharing a home, you have to have the right people in the home. And so take some extra time. Let a room sit vacant for an extra month if you have to get the right person in. That's the key.
Yep.
That's the key. That's one of the biggest lessons I would say I've learned. I mean,
Yep.
there's a lot of other lessons. I think how nice, I walked into a co-living home the other day. Someone told me, hey, Sam, I have a co-living home. It's for sale and you're going to love it because it's already a co-living home. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll look at it. So I walk into the home and it smells so bad and it stinks.
Oh, wow.
And the dirt, there's like dirt and bugs everywhere. And they don't even have doors on all the bedrooms. They just put sheets and blankets, and like that was the door. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is not co-living, right? Co-living is clean. Yeah. Co-living is quiet. Co-living is safe. And so there's a lot of people out there that'll say, I'm doing co-living. I got this many homes, whatever, or I've got this many rooms, but they're doing it completely incorrectly. They're doing it wrong. They're not doing it in a way that's sustainable over the long term. So I think there's, when you manage a bunch of properties, you start to realize, wow, there are people who do it wrong and there are people who do it right. There are people who do it with systems and there are people who are just winging it. And you got to have the right systems if you're going to scale it. You can wing it with one property and sort of get by. But once you get 2, 3, 4, you have 100 doors. No. It takes systems to make it work. So that's that's the secret.
Okay, system, what do you need? You mean tools, you mean people, you mean strong team, correct?
Yeah, or like SOPs, how do you build the house out? What do you put in the common area? Do you even have a common area? How do you handle parking? Like those types of systems. How do you label the refrigerator? How do you label the cabinet space to make sure people aren't stealing each other's food? How do you keep the house clean? What are your systems to make sure that this thing stays clean? How do you keep the house safe? What are your systems to keep it safe? What about quiet? Are there any systems to keep it quiet, or can anybody just do whatever they want? Can they have guests over every night of the week, or do you have a system to track that and make sure they don't have more than a certain number of guests? Things like that. That's the difference in co-living. You have to have those systems or else it quickly becomes a free-for-all, which is not what you want.
Yeah. It's great to have system, great to have order and policies. Let's talk a little bit about policies and about, you just mentioned is something interesting, food. So how people can avoid, stealing each other food, what you're doing in your houses?
Well, one of the simplest ways, and I'll be honest, is I fought this suggestion. My team came to me and said, Sam, we need to have cameras in the common area in the room. And I was like, no, that's stupid. We don't have that many issues. And the truth is we didn't have that many issues. But as we grew bigger and bigger and bigger, we weren't able to walk into every home every week. We started to scale, and at scale, you need more systems. And so finally I said, okay, let's do it. And so now if there's a complaint, or if someone says, Johnny ate my peanut butter, right? Which, can happen, as silly as that might sound. We have a record of it. It's legal to put a camera in a place where when there's no expectation of privacy. Obviously, you can't put a camera somewhere where people expect there to be privacy. But we tell them, when they sign their membership agreement, we tell them there's cameras in this home, right? In the common area, on the front and the back and the sides. Obviously, nowhere near a bathroom, nowhere near a bedroom, but in the common area. And now, so that's when it comes to tracking things and kind of finding out what happened. We have the cameras. Like the company we use is called Wise. I think it's WYZE. I think Wise.
Yep.
And that's the system that we use. We track it. We can look back at it. We record for the last week, everything that's happened. And if something happens, it helps us reduce that liability too.
Perfect.
So that's
Sam, if you
that's
don't
number
mind,
one thing.
Yeah, so much. Sorry to interrupt you. I just wrote down name of brand cameras you use, and in the after podcast, I will ask you. Could you please send me link to these cameras and let me post them under this link under our podcast for the future audience. Yes, great to provide people as many sources as possible. So you mentioned you use cameras inside. Do you use cameras outside?
Yeah, of course. On the front of the door, on the back, anywhere there's an entrance, we use cameras. So if there's an entrance on the back or the side or the back, we have a camera there. But we even put one usually near the trash cans. Usually we have 3 to 4 cameras per house. Not more than that, but 3 to 4. Front, back, in the common area. That's most common for us.
Great. Yeah, it definitely will help homeowners to avoid most of the issues with unexpected issues.
Yeah. Great. And then Elena, there's also like everybody, and your listeners probably already know this, I think, but you gotta label stuff too. So like when I had my first, I call them peanut butter problems. They're like these problems that are so silly, you think you shouldn't have to deal with them, but they happen in co-living. It's like Johnny, I'll just call the guy Johnny. Johnny says, Susie ate my peanut butter and I'm so mad and I can't believe he did it. And I'm like, I don't want to have to deal with these problems, right? And so we came up with these systems where every shelf in the refrigerator, every shelf in the freezer, right? Every cabinet space, where they put their detergent in the laundry room, where they park is all labeled R1, room 1, R2, R3, room 2, room 3, and then we label all the rooms, R1, R2. We label which bathroom. If they share a bathroom, we label that bathroom. Hey, this bathroom is for room 1 and room 2. This bathroom is for room 2 and room 3. So just the more of that type of stuff you can do, the simpler you make it for the people moving in. And it's just easier for them to understand. So that the labeling helps a lot eliminate the issues.
Yeah, thank you. A great advice. For someone, maybe it sounds silly, but it gives us simplicity. The more predictable system will be in our co-living houses, the more it will help for everyone, include us, include people. Yep. Very cool.
That's right.
Very cool.
That's right.
And Sam, could you please tell us a little bit what is the best way to find tenants? Because I spoke with several co-living investors, and someone says avoid Craigslist, avoid Facebook Marketplace. Some people prefer only roomies. Someone uses only pod split. So what are your sources finding tenants?
Yeah, I mean, when you have a lot of rooms, you have to be everywhere. You don't have the luxury of only having one platform. When I first started and I had only a couple of homes, honestly, the only place we used was Craigslist. That was the only place we used. And then as we grew, Craigslist, has some weird things about it. They kick you off. Your ad can get banned really easily from Craigslist. There's a lot of weird stuff that can happen on Craigslist. So very spammy. So, okay, we went to Facebook Marketplace, and then we only used Facebook Marketplace for a couple of years. But then Facebook Marketplace started making it harder for you to post on Facebook Marketplace. They didn't want companies posting, and they made it harder and more difficult, and they flagged you more. So then we went to other sites, like you mentioned, Roomies and Roomster, and there's one called Surtru, CIRTRU, I think, Surtru, and CoLiving.com, and all these sites. And then it's like, well, okay, we need to be in Facebook groups. And so what we've learned is you want to think about it like if someone is looking for a room, I'm Googling room for rent, Charlotte, North Carolina. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're an investor, you just need to do that in your town that you have your co-living home. So go right now and Google room for rent, Tallahassee, Florida, or wherever anybody listening to this is. And whatever websites come up on the first 2 pages, you need to list on all those sites, because that's what Google is already making at the top of the search engine. So you need to be on those sites. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's one way to test, because what works in one market doesn't always work in another market. So the way that you test that is just by Googling your own market and seeing what pops up, and then make sure you advertise in those sites. But it's like window shopping. If someone's going out there and they're going to go shopping for a co-living home, they're going to look at a bunch of windows. Oh, that one looks cool. Let me send an inquiry. Hey, I'm interested in this co-living home. Let me know. Oh, that one looks good. And they're going to send probably 10 to 15 inquiries. And so obviously you need to be the first one to respond. You need to respond quick to inquiries. You need to be personable. You need to not sound like a scam. You need to get them on the phone as quickly as possible. Like, that's what you want to accomplish, right? So how do you do that? You do that by simply being in all the windows. Be in every window you possibly can be, right? You can use companies like PadSplit, but PadSplit's expensive. So you have to be willing to give up a portion of your income for that, a significant portion of your income. But they can help you. They put ad money out there. They advertise for people in your house. So all of that is great. All that is great. But I would say that that's kind of the place to start, is just Googling your area and making sure you're on those first 2 pages.
Perfect. Simple but clear. Thank you, Sam, for great advice.
Yeah. Simple and clear. That's how I like to operate. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. You just got to know the strategy and know how to apply it.
Yes, absolutely agree. Just a couple words for people who are watching us right now and who will be watching us in the future. This podcast is about co-living, and most information is for real estate investors who are in co-living space, or who is considering to step into co-living space, or for people who would love to start investing in real estate and still choosing their avatar and choosing their strategies. So co-living, this is the future for America. I absolutely believe in it. I know Sam Wegert, he's my guest today, known guy on co-living space. He agrees with me. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for
I'm glad we agree. This is awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you already touched base, very, very important part of this business, tenants. I've spoke with many people who runs co-living houses, and almost all of them, they have own strategy, how they vet tenants, what kind of tenants they prefer to have. Some of them, they call to their previous landlord. Some of them, they just do query or any kind of background check. Some of them meet them in person. Some of them, some landlords, they do Zooms with potential tenants. So what do you think? What is the best strategy to vet potential tenants?
To vet them to make sure they're a good fit? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, you really have to do 4 things to vet a tenant to make sure. We call them a member. Because so if you hear me say member, it's the same thing as a tenant, but we put people on a membership agreement because legally that gives us more flexibility. When you have someone on a membership agreement, now I want to be very careful. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not giving legal advice, but I've spent tens and tens of thousands of dollars on my legal team to build out membership agreements for our company. It's very important because it allows us to kick people out faster, and we have more rights when we're a membership based company than if we're just a lease with somebody. So that's very important. So when I say member, I mean the person living in the home. So for our members, there's really 4 things you got to do to vet the member correctly. Number 1, you've got to set correct expectations. A lot of times, the reason someone becomes a bad member is because you didn't tell them up front the rules of the house, and they didn't know those. And so I I think what's really important is that they know the rules of the house. And we do this through a little video. I give this out to all my students. They use it for their homes. You send this little video saying, hey, thank you for your inquiry about my home, right? Thank you for your inquiry. And, watch this quick video. And in that video, it explains, this is what we do. This is what we don't do. This is what we do. This is what we don't do. You can do that. And it sets the expectation. And then at the end, it says, if you're interested after this video, now reach out to us. And so we only get those people that have watched that video that have gone through this. So that's number one. Number one is that. Number two, so you need to set the correct expectations. Number two, you have to meet them in person. I think this is still a key part. I know some people would disagree with me. They say, Sam, how do you do that? There's too many people, but I think you have to meet them in person to do a culture check. So we do a lot of in-person showings still. Maybe someday we'll do away with those, but I think it's still important right now. And then I would say the second thing is, or the third thing, so meet them in person. The third thing is you obviously have to do a full background check. You have to make sure that they don't have any violent, if anybody has any violent crime in their past, they're not a good fit for co-living because they're going to be living with other people. So you want to keep the home safe. That's one of the biggest ways I think you can help keep the home safe. So you've got set the correct expectations. Make sure you do an in-person. And before we do the in-person, I guess this is the fourth thing. Before you do the in-person, you're going to do a phone call interview. And I use the word interview because they're not interviewing you. You're interviewing them. Hey, tell me, what is a day in the life of you? Yeah. Have you ever lived with roommates before? These are questions we're asking, right? Have you ever lived with roommates before? What makes you want to live with these housemates? We call them housemates, not roommates. Sorry. Right. So you want to do that to make sure they're doing it for the right reasons. Right. And to make sure that hopefully in a perfect world, they've had some experience. This won't be the first time they've ever lived with, different people in a house and shared a house together. So I think that that's really important. And then obviously the background check and then making sure you do the in-person. So those are kind of the four things that I would make sure that someone does when you're vetting out a new member. We do a credit check too, to check on their debt and their level. And we even do income verification. So you can do an income verification, whatever the price of the room is, you can pick your amount. Hey, I want them to make 2.5 times the rent, 3 times the rent, 4 times the rent, whatever you want to do. I think we do 3 times the rent, but that's kind of your decision. But I think those are some of the important pieces. There's more stuff you can do than that, but there is such a thing as too much.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned you do 3 times income compared to room price. It's actually almost like mortgage officers. They calculate applicants. So this is great. It's reasonable, absolutely.
Or even like going to an apartment, or even like you want to go rent an apartment. It's kind of the same. Like, hey, usually there's some income verification. So yeah, it's fair. It's fair. You have rights to understand, are you able to pay back your lenders or not, right? Absolutely. Right. And what do you think about different genders in the same house? I've heard from a couple people, it's very funny, couple people who run co-living houses, they believe males are better tenants than females, which is funny. What do you think? Yeah, they can... I don't know if one is better than the other. We have a lot of co-ed co-living homes. All of our homes are co-ed with the exception of maybe 1 or 2. I do think sometimes men are a little bit less drama, but not always. Not always. Some of the men, can be a lot of very dramatic. So I think that you've got to, what do I think? I think that it's important to just make sure that they know what they're getting into. If it's a female, they need to know that there are men in the house. I know that sounds silly and very basic, but I think if they understand, hey, you're going to be sharing a bathroom with a guy, are you okay with that? Oh, no, I want a private bath. Okay, then here's a private bath, but it's $300 more per month. It's more expensive, whatever. Like, I think they just need to understand and say, yes, I get that. And if they're okay with it and it's been pre-framed, then I think it's fine. And we have some great houses where females and males exist perfectly well together. And I think that's important. Now, you can put all females in one house and keep it separate, but you have to be careful about how you advertise. If you go on Facebook Marketplace or Roomies or Roomster and you put for females only, sometimes, sometimes these companies don't like for you to do that. Facebook Marketplace, for sure, they'll ban your ad and they might even shut down your Facebook Marketplace account. We've even got shut down before because we put for working young professionals. And Facebook Marketplace said that's discrimination. That's against fair housing. You can't do that. And they took the ad down. I think they even shut down our Marketplace account. So you have to be careful about doing that. If you are going to do that, do it on a phone call with them. Don't do it in your ad copy. Don't do it in the description of your home. And then just say, hey, do you prefer? And for us, we have so many people. We have like 1 or 2 homes that are female only. But just keep in mind, if you do that, it will take you longer to fill your home. It just will. It'll take you longer because you're limiting half the population. So
yeah,
that's
you
what
limit,
we
but from another side, you mentioned a couple of times that quality of tenants is really important, and you should be very selective, choosing people, speaking with them. So sometimes it's better even to fill a house in longer than faster, but to make sure you have better tenants, people who are get along together better. Yeah, and I like your strategy labeling stuff. So what do you use to label how it looks like? You still provide people all kitchen stuff, right? And plates and bowls and everything.
You do. You want to provide a fully stocked kitchen, and will they break some things? Of course. Will they take it to their room and forget to put it back? Yes. Will they take it to their car and forget to bring it back? Of course. Will plates and silverware just disappear? Yes. But it's a small cost to what you can cash flow in these homes, so it's worth it.
Yep.
So yeah. So I'm a big fan of doing that. I mean, when you label things, I'm we just use one of those like $30 label makers that you pick up from Amazon that just spits out the little white thing that's like this wide, it's like this long, 4 or 5 inches long. You just put it on, and so that seems to make it work really, really, really well, and just is easy to accomplish. But we don't, we furnish the kitchen. And then we like to have one area in the home that's designated as a common area for people to work and eat. And so we will furnish that area. We'll put some tables in there. We might put a desk. We might put a small common area, not large, very small. If it's too big, then people will leave stuff everywhere and it'll be bad. So a small common area is key. And then, a small common area, and then we don't furnish any of the bedrooms because I believe that if someone's coming into my home, I want to sign a 12-month membership agreement with them, which means they need to think of this as like their new home. I want them to stay for 5 years, and for them to think about this as their home, they need to move some of their own stuff in. If I already have a bed and a dresser and if I already have everything in there, it's going to feel a little bit more like an Airbnb. So I want them to be able to bring their stuff in and be able to stay for many, many, many years. So the phrase that I want all of your listeners to think about is the room is the new apartment.
Yep.
The room is the new apartment, and that's how we're doing it.
Very cool idea, because most of the co-living people, maybe someone just put it in our brain, this idea, and we just used to this idea. But most of co-living investors, they furnish their houses. And you said you don't. So you don't have anything, no bed, no TV, no dresser, no table.
No TV, no dresser. The room is completely empty.
Wow.
When someone moves their own stuff in, I want them to think of it as their new apartment. So I want them to stay. But and it's a little bit harder. It's a little bit harder to move out if all your stuff is there and your furniture is there. It's so easy to move out if you just live in a pad split and everything there's for you and you can just go to another pad split tomorrow. It's harder. So I
love this idea.
It's easy to move out, right? Plus you're replacing furniture and things are breaking and you spend thousands and thousands of dollars in furniture. And I'm not saying that that model doesn't work, because there are people who do that. I'm just saying, I think in a perfect world, as co-living expands and grows, I think there's going to be a market for people who maybe even have their own furniture. Now, I don't let them move their own furniture into the common area or the kitchen. No. But your bedroom, do whatever you want to your bedroom. I had this one guy who lived in one of my homes in Asheville, and he changed all the light bulbs in his bedroom. There was a fan. He changed the light bulbs to blue light bulbs. And I walked by his room and I saw that he had blue light bulbs. And at first I was like, man, he shouldn't have changed those. And then I thought about it and I said, no, I'm glad he changed those. It's his room. I want it to feel like his space. I want it to feel safe and comfortable for home for him. And if the room is the new apartment, which, by the way, I mean, I know you're Ukrainian. You've been to Germany a bunch. I'm German by descent. And in Germany, co-living is the way of life. It's not new. It's not special. It's thousands and a lot of people, maybe millions. I don't know the number, but lots of people live in a room because that's what people can afford. And so that's the new apartment, right? And that's kind of how I want people to start thinking about co-living. Is we're not to the America is not quite to the point of Germany.
Not yet.
But it's headed there. Not yet. That's what I'm trying to say, Elena. It's not yet, but it's headed there, you know?
Yeah, I agree. But Sam, actually, I live in Massachusetts and I know how it works here. This state is officially has biggest lack of inventory, biggest lack of housing in the country. Wow. Yeah, and Boston and greater Boston, 90% of single family, they rent rooms. So it's absolutely nothing new in New England. Yeah, to be honest. Wow. Yep. I'm just checking here. My dog.
One of my good friends has 500 co-living rooms in Boston. And Boston is one of the most expensive cities in the United States.
Yep. I know a couple people who own co-living student houses. I know one guy, he owns a few houses in Cambridge, where is university, and one house bring him 16,000 per month. It's amazing. It's
amazing. And people need it. People need it. It's not like, I mean, I think there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, you're taking advantage of people. And it's like, well, maybe, or we're providing something that is desperately needed and we're creating a win-win. Now, I wish everybody could get their own multi-million-dollar mansion. That's what I wish. But that is not the reality of America right now, like you're saying about Massachusetts and Boston. So we could cry and say, or we could just say, let's provide as many people as possible with clean, with quiet, with safe housing. Tonight in America, Thursday, July 31st, 2025, there will be 600,000 people without a roof over their head. 600,000 in America. And we're the richest country in the world, supposedly, or one of the richest countries. But we can't even have enough housing for these people, and it's like, man, it's just too expensive. So I'm a big fan of co-living. I was talking to someone 2 days ago. I met him in Asheville, North Carolina. I was riding around on my scooter, and he said he lives in a halfway house. He's going to drug rehab, and he shares a room with one other person, and he pays $1,000 a month. And I said, man, because I have homes in Asheville. I said, but I mean, halfway houses provide some different services that I don't provide. But I was like, when you get through your rehab, come rent a whole private room from me for $900, a whole private room. You don't have to share it with anybody. And he was like, okay, I will. So, I mean, you can do this in a way that provides really affordable housing.
Yeah, it's amazing. And thank you so much, Sam, for this great conversation. It's already 45 minutes. And guys who are watching us right now, we probably have another 5 minutes. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat. And for people who who will be watching us in the future. Sam Wegert, he is my guest today. He is a CoLiving expert. He is investor. He is mentor. He has his own mentorship, CoLiving mentorship, and he knows a lot. So I am going to put his social media link under this podcast. Please feel free to reach out to Sam directly with all your needs and with all your questions. I know he's open-minded guy. He is happy to answer all your questions. Okay, Sam, thank you so much for this great conversation. And at the conclusion, what do you think about CoLiving perspectives for the, let's say, for the next 5 years? What we should expect? What are the tendencies should be on the market?
Yeah, I think for the next 5 years, I think people should definitely expect for this to be one of the fastest growing asset classes in America. But it will not always. Like right now is the time to get in so that you can expand, grow. It will become saturated eventually, like Airbnb did. You know, in an asset class like CoLiving, you've got a good 10 years before, you know, people will get into it, and you've got 10 good years. And then there becomes a time where everybody should sell. You know, the time to sell your Airbnb was a couple years ago, right? So I say that to say there's life cycles to all of this. So I think the number one, get into it now. 2, do your product really well. Have nice houses. Do it well. Have a nice common area. Buy in a good high demand area. That's going to be the biggest thing that's going to help you. Buy in a city that's high demand. And buy in a city that you think is going to grow. That's, I think, a big key too. And then I would just say, you know, for the future of CoLiving, right now, I think you have some people, and that's why it's important to know what cities are CoLiving friendly. I help my students a lot find what cities are CoLiving friendly and what cities are not CoLiving friendly. So you need to understand that. You need to know that, because some cities right now, they hate CoLiving, and they're going to try to get code enforcement out there and do all this stuff, right? But it's really important. But in the future, in the next 5 years, I think it will be accepted in almost every city in America. And so you really, so I think positive legislation is coming, and you'll just get a lot more players in the space. So, and in the next 5 years, there will be more options of people to manage your property. So get in now while things are still cheap. And you might say, Sam, did you say cheap? Like, things are so expensive. But here's the bad news. Things are going to get more expensive. They just are. There's inflation, there's tariffs, there's going to be interest rates. When interest rates drop, things are going to get more expensive. Like, it's just going to happen, right? Deportations, moving people out. Like a lot of people that are moving out of the country are people who build our homes. You know, my contractor, one of my main contractors got deported.
Oh my gosh.
He was my main guy. He was my main guy.
Oh
He was
gosh.
cheap. He was cheap. He was fast. He did my CoLiving work. And all of a sudden, he just got ghosted completely. We were like, what the heck? This guy's done 5-6 homes for us. He's amazing. Right?
It's
so
crazy.
Guess who I have to use? A more expensive guy. Guess what that means? Everything gets more expensive. So that's just a small snapshot, but that's happening around the United States. So something to consider. Those are some of my predictions.
Let's hope for the future, for the best in the future.
Let's hope for the best.
Hope.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, let's hope for the best, but let's predict it. It can happen worse.
That's right.
Let's understand it can happen. Sam, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your experience. Thank you for everything you shared with people today. And I'm really proud to have you today as my guest. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was an honor to be on. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Bye-bye. Thank you so much, everyone, for being today with us. It was a podcast about CoLiving in real estate. My guest was awesome person and great experience at mentor and investor, Sam Wegert. We had great conversation. Guys, I will put Sam's link under this video. Please reach out to him directly. Also, I will ask Sam, and he will provide me link to the cameras he used. I'll put this link also under this video. And whoever watching us in the future, if you guys are private money lenders or you want to invest in real estate without toilets, tenants without dealing with all these troubles, please reach out to me. I am a real estate investor myself, and I'm always happy to extend my network with private lenders and to help you guys step into co-living space in real estate investment. Thank you again, and have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye-bye.